Audio unleashed.
Okay, let's have none of that nonsense to start out with. Let's just get right into it and kind of business-like demeanor.
I was actually going to ask you if I could read a couple of YouTube comments to start off with. What do you think about that?
If they're bad, yeah.
No, they're good, man. So, come on, it's cool stuff.
I only like to hate mail.
No, this is love mail, man. So we got a comment from a Silpha 718. This is related to the conversation where I was talking about Luminous Arise, that video game. The comment says, last place I thought I would get a game recommendation, but Luminous Arise is a blast. I'm really enjoying the soundtrack. By the way, Silpha 718, they're actually going to release the soundtrack in physical media next month. So be on the lookout for that. I think it's coming out on vinyl even. So here's another comment that's from Daniel Ho, who regularly comments on our YouTube channel. And this was related to the discussion about like young kids, being audiophiles or not. And I thought he had a really interesting perspective that I hadn't really read anywhere else. But now that I've read it, it's like, God, that's so obvious. Why didn't I think about that? He says, my kids take good sound and software access for granted. What's the point of them becoming audiophiles when there's no longer the elusive chase for perfection or completion? And I thought that was really, really interesting. It's just pretty safe to assume most audio gear these days, at least the stuff that any young kid's can afford, is probably really competent and probably really good. So, like, why did they need to make that a hobby per se? Like, if there's so much good, affordable gear, it's just kind of accept it and just take it for granted. I thought that was really neat.
That's a great point, because the stuff that, was around when I was a kid was almost all bad.
Yeah.
And, that was probably true up until around, I don't know when, maybe even 10 years ago. I don't know, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But, now you go buy little bookshelf speakers and they're mostly really good. And you could buy these powered speakers that are like the Victrola Tempo, which I'm using. And I think they're $250 or something. And they're great. I've got them set up and I'm just like, I can't believe how good these things are.
Yeah.
Way better than better than $1,000 bookshelf speakers of my childhood, probably.
Yeah. And you don't need to get your identity wrapped up in that. It's just like, it's just sort of a thing that works and sounds good. So
and the amp's built in, and I plug it into my TV, and it's got Bluetooth.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got that out of the way. Right. What do you want to talk about this week, buddy?
I want to talk about, speaking of old school, Sony. Remember Sony? Still a leading brand in audio and certainly in video. And the headline here from flatpanelshd.com is Sony to spin off TV and home audio division to TCL. And that just came as a complete shock to me, having grown up with Sony. And Sony was like the revered brand for so long, and in audio and video. And now, so this includes the Sony, the TV and the home audio division. We're going to dig into that a little bit and see what this really means, or what we think it means. Our good friend Ted Green at strategy.com had probably the most informed take on the whole thing, which we'll also talk about.
Yeah. After we get through that, we've got a very special guest coming on. Those of you who tuned in for our discussion about my appearance on the Hi-Fi 5 may remember us talking about Danny Kaey, also of Sonic Flare. He is joining us for a second segment to discuss a new Headphone Sty article that you put in the idea board. And this is called Independent Measurements Are Triggering Shutdowns and Sales Losses Across Legacy Audio Brands. Interestingly enough, this one doesn't seem to be just a sort of AI summary of somebody else's article. I can't see, whereas there's no,
good point.
They're aggregating information here. I guess they fed their large language model an idea for an article and it went and pulled the sources. But anyway, the pitch that they're making here is that all these brands who make crappy gear, well, they can't get away with it anymore because we've got receipts. These measurements are putting companies out of business left and right. And it's a big claim, but we're going to discuss it. But more importantly, we're going to have a fun conversation with Danny and see where it goes. And after we get through with that, what do you want to talk about?
Marshall's is from What Hi-Fi. Marshall's Dinky streaming hub brings wireless multi-room and vinyl support to its rock and roll Bluetooth speakers. It's a streaming hub, so you can stream, Spotify and junk like that, from Wi-Fi. But then it broadcasts it out through Auracast, which is the new-ish Bluetooth standard that, can transmit to any number of devices, theoretically of any brand, and basically allows you to do a multi-room system of sorts. I have a lot of experience with Auracast, and I also have my colleague, Lauren Dragon at Wirecutter, who also has a lot of experience with Auracast, which we both shared, and we've tested a lot of the same. We've sent products back and forth to each other. So we're going to talk about Auracast and what's the state of Auracast and does it matter and blah, blah, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, honestly, this is the most important thing going on in audio right now.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Well, I look forward to that justification.
Okay. And after that, if you give us $3, like ongoing every month. But if you give us $3, you get to hear a conversation about one of Erin Hardison's newest videos, Erin's Audio Corner. He just, as we are recording this, he just published this 6 days ago. It's a video entitled 5 Mistakes Even the Pros Make with Room Treatment. Basically, what it boils down to is that Erin talks about speakers in rooms. He talks about acoustical treatment, what works, what doesn't, why. He talks about, room correction. Basically, in a sense, this is a sort of distillation of Floyd Toole's work and the information that comes from his book, Sound Reproduction. But Erin does a really, really good job of, I think, explaining why there's no one-size-fits-all solution and why the whole question of does the speaker or the room make more difference is not quite the right question. I think he also does a really amazing job of explaining what a lot of these confusing looking graphs and charts and measurements mean in terms of what you actually hear. And that was probably one of my favorite things about the video. So we're going to dig in and we're going to discuss. Let's talk about the Chinese taking over Sony, I guess. So in a joint announcement, the company said the spinoff will take the form of a joint venture with TCL holding 51% and Sony 49% of the shares. Now, as Ted Green points out, because Ted points out everyone's talking about this, but there's only like a 4-paragraph announcement. So there's only so much you can figure out from there.
Yeah.
But as Ted points out, the key thing is here, TCL has 51%, Sony has 49%. So TCL controls it.
Yeah.
And, he also points out that, look, the history of the TV industry has been that, it was American brands, because we invented it. And then, the Japanese brands came in there and they had lower production costs and frankly, a kind of a more innovative culture. By that time, I think the U.S. TV industry was kind of like the U.S. car industry at the time.
Yeah.
Really kind of stuck in their ways and enjoying their 3 martini lunches and stuff. And then the Japanese came in and out innovated them and came out with basically lower priced products. Yeah. And then the South Koreans, LG and Samsung did the same thing against Japan. They came out with, they kind of became more innovative. I mean, I still remember when Samsung was like super aggressive about getting 16:9 out there and stuff.
Yeah.
And LG bought Zenith and all that stuff. And now the Chinese are basically doing the same thing. As Ted points out, he's like, Sony really was like the big innovator in the days of analog TVs. but they haven't been able to really innovate as much in the digital era.
Right.
That's true. Although I still think of Sony as a leading brand in audio. And so, of course, we're audio. So we're talking about audio. And so when I saw this, I was kind of like, what does the Sony home audio business consist of these days? And Sony has done a lot of, high-end audio products. And Sony, was revered back in its day for having among the best cassette decks, among the best CD players, et cetera, et cetera. And, very respected for receivers and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so not revered for its speakers. But I went and looked, and all they have left is they have 2 new turntables. They're replacing their one they've had for about 6 or 7 years. And they look good. They look cool. They have about 7 AV receivers. I don't know anything about those anymore, but you do.
They're not great. They're not great.
And they have one set of cheap speakers, which is our current Wirecutter pick, and which Erin raved about as well, which is an update of a speaker line they introduced like 10 years ago. They look identical, and that's all they make. And they have sound bars as well.
I was about to say,
but they're not. Their sound bars are competent, but I wouldn't call them a leader in sound bars. That's LG versus Samsung versus Vizio.
Can I bring up an interesting point about the new Sony turntables?
Sure.
This comes from our friend John Higgins, writing for The Verge. And he's talking about the new turntables announced. His article was published January 22nd. I wanted to read this to you real quick, because this is this is disturbing to me and indicative of a weird sort of 800-pound gorilla attitude when you're not an 800-pound gorilla anymore. So the LX3BT uses a moving magnet cartridge with 3.5 grams of stylus pressure, while the more expensive 5BT's high-precision moving magnet cartridge has a stylus pressure of 2 grams. Here's the part that disturbs me. Sony did not reveal who manufactures the cartridge, and they can only be replaced through Sony customer support. Aftermarket cartridges, such as those from Ortofon, are not compatible with either model.
I didn't see that.
Patently ridiculous. So he updated it on January 22nd and said Sony provided additional details after publish about aftermarket cartridge compatibility and the aluminum platters on each model. So that's just like, how can you basically be like, let's face it, Sony is not the first brand that comes to mind when you think turntables, right?
No.
But they're behaving like they own the turntable market. You can't get away with that kind of behavior if you're not a major player. Or I guess what they're assuming is people are just going to buy it without knowing,
Who knows how long Sony survives as an audio brand, because will TCL care about that? Obviously Samsung cares about audio. They bought Harman.
Yeah.
Which also bought Sound United. So Samsung owns half the audio brands that most people can name.
Mm-hmm.
So TCL may be looking at that and thinking, well, we need an audio brand. And Sony is still a good brand. They just don't have any audio, but it's not exactly like TCL couldn't develop audio products. Clearly they have audio engineers. Their sound bars are really good, by the way. One of them is a Wirecutter pick, and I keep thinking I should just buy it because it's like $99 and it totally destroys.
Oh, wow. I found this interesting, though, this fun fact that Ted put in at the end of a paragraph. Fun fact, Onkyo in Japan, brackets, not associated with premium audio company here in the U.S., is providing certain TCL premium TV models with upgraded audio and has been for years. So, number one, Onkyo in Japan is not the same as Onkyo in the U.S., not even the same company, but the Onkyo in Japan is providing speakers for certain TCL models. I found that fascinating, and I wonder if that's going to be affected by any of this.
I don't think so, because Onkyo Japan is well known as an OEM, an ODM.
Yeah.
They have made sound bars for a lot of big names.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say who, but because, I learned that during my consulting years when I was working on sound bars a lot. But they are very well respected. And I will say the Onkyo here that we have is as it's kind of enjoying a rebirth and is coming out with some cool powered speakers and things like that. And so
Really cool.
that brand name is being resurrected. And I think they are going to continue as an ODM for a long time. But I'd be curious to see what TCL plans. Do they want to have their own serious audio brand? This could be the resurrection of the Sony brand. It could be the death of the Sony brand. Certainly those turntables aren't going to help, because that's going to that's the kind of thing that's going to get you automatically booted out of like Wirecutter. And I think, if a Steve Guttenberg would look at that and go, no way, forget it. He wouldn't even talk about them probably.
Right.
And I don't know who's going to take that seriously.
They kind of look like Audio-Technica cartridges.
Yeah.
Interesting that you can't, that it's like they've done something to make them proprietary. So like I said, man, as long as they leave PlayStation alone, I'm fine. As long as I can get the PlayStation 6 when it comes out, I don't care. I don't even know. Well,
that was not that's what Sony wants to be now, as a gaming and entertainment company. And
good.
As Ted points out, this has been happening for 10 years.
Yeah.
So, they have been gradually spinning off more and more stuff, but we will see. I will miss them. But, I just reviewed a bunch of portable CD players, which is a category Sony used to kind of own. And there were no Sonys. And I have been checking out a lot of portable cassette players, and there are no Sonys.
Yeah.
There's almost like no brands that you've even heard of. There's, Ciatron and Klim, Klim, and a bunch of brands like that. And this stuff is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I'm just nostalgic for the old days.
Yeah.
Back when audio equipment was really expensive and kind of sucked.
I love it. Well, I think that's a good note to end this segment on, man. So let's take a break and go get a drink of water, and we will come back with Danny Kaey to talk about this new Headphone Sty article, man.
Cool.
All right, we'll be right back, y'all. And welcome back. This is Audio
Unleashed.
Nice. The voice you heard there was Mr. Danny Kaey, who we know from the Hi-Fi 5, who was kind enough to have me on his show a while back, and we decided to return the insult and have him on our show. Danny, tell us a little bit about who you are. What's your credentials, man?
My credentials, PhDs all over, baby. No, I'm just kidding. First of all, huge thanks to you and Brent for having me on. I really feel honored. I've been following you guys, both of you, over the years. And so I think when I reached out via the Hi-Fi 5, it was pleasant that you joined us. And thanks for reciprocating. Who am I? Who is Danny Kaey?
Yeah, what's this whole Sonic Flare thing about, man? I've been trying to wrap my brain around all that.
Great question. So let me widen out the net a little bit. Sure. I got into hi-fi and audio when I was about 12 or 13. My older brother was the bug that infected me, so to speak. And he took me to a hi-fi show. And I was just like, dude, gobsmacked. This is so cool. This is amazing. And we're talking about the early 80s here, just to date myself. And so, from there on, I mean, I always stuck around hi-fi and played records and started listening to music more and more intuitively and really paying attention to it. Of course, I couldn't afford to buy any of the gear. And then famously, when I moved to LA, I grew up in Austria, but when I moved to LA to pursue a career in acting, I would go to all the hi-fi shops in LA. And of course, they all like, oh yeah, what? You're an actor? Which restaurant do you work at, pal? Long story short, I began in 2000. I met the crew at Positive Feedback, which was a small print publication.
What's that?
Yeah, you used to have this thing called paper in your hands, and I'm not talking about toilet paper. I'm just talking about paper to read and all that. And so these guys were switching to internet. And they were looking for reviewers because they were like, hey, we got to produce content. And now that we're no longer held back by publishing schedules and printing stuff. And they were like, dude, you seem about 50 years younger than everyone else in this room. Would you be interested in writing for us? And I was like, sure, heck yeah, why not? This is so cool. I get to write about hi-fi and get gear for review. Absolutely. And through that, I started attending all the shows, started meeting, people everywhere. As a matter of fact, I wrote for a Canadian rag, the great Ernie Fisher, The Inner Ear. That was my first actual print magazine that I was published in.
Ernie and I went back a long way.
Yep. Crazy Austrian. Yep. Yeah. He had found some new money guy, and the magazine relaunched, and I joined the fray, so to speak, and it was unfortunately very short-lived because as soon as the money guy saw that there's no money coming back, the spigot was turned off.
That'll do it.
Obviously with me, being from Austria, a native German speaker, I started writing for a couple of German magazines. And then, it was probably around 2007 or 8, I met Josh Ray, and he had started this new blog called Sonic Flair. And we were very like-minded. We really wanted to kind of promote the hi-fi industry outside of the norm of the audiophile club. Josh then left and did other things. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start doing this by myself. I started my own YouTube channel back in 2021, I think it was, just around COVID, second year of COVID or so. And it's all been under the Sonic Flair brand name and label. And my goal was really to start talking about hi-fi and music from the perspective of just being realistic. Right. And not just really going down that marketing rabbit hole that I was guilty of myself throughout all my early years, so to speak. But really sort of like you can't just make all these wild claims without being able to back any of that stuff up. So my point was, let's be a little more honest about what audio is and how you can quantify the subjectivity with the objectiveness of what you're hearing. How do your ears impact what you're hearing, et cetera, et cetera.
Very cool. Well, that kind of plays into what we got you on to talk about today, which, hey, man, we don't invite people on to talk about themselves. So we want to bring you on and talk about, the sort of thing we normally talk about, which in this case is a Headphone Sty article.
Yet another one.
Brent, you want to set this one up since you put it in the idea board, buddy?
You keep telling me all this stuff is probably AI driven, and it probably is because there's so much of it and there's so much content out there that. So they put out an article that said independent measurements are triggering shutdowns and sales losses across legacy audio brands. And of course, as someone who does measurements, I was kind of like, So I started reading this, and it starts talking about, the people that it really talks about mostly are Erin Hardison, who we've had on here before and talk about a lot, and Amir from Audio Science Review, and also the guy from Golden Sound. What's his name? Is it Cameron Oatley?
Yeah, that is Cameron.
And how these guys are doing independent measurements. This stuff has been done by magazines and websites for decades, and has somehow been, I think for the most part, ignored. But now it's really starting to get traction and it's having an impact on these companies. Such as Erin did a measurement of a Tecton speaker and got sued for it, or no, got threatened with a lawsuit for it.
Threatened. Yeah.
Because it had problems, and he treated it fairly. And then Amir at ASR is doing measurements of digital to analog converters and making SINAD, which is signal to noise and distortion, as Headphone Sty puts it, the headline number for DAC and amp discussions. This person is saying that, in the old days, the way that you did audio reviews was some guy listened to the product and said it sounds like whatever, and then that was it. But now with these supposedly independent measurements, that's all changing. I will open the discussion up now.
Open it.
Okay, it's open.
It's open.
Go.
I guess you could just do that.
Yes,
Wave a wand
go.
and it's open, huh?
Go. Hit it. Hit it. Danny,
go.
Gosh, I mean, I think there's a lot to unpack, right? If I look back at my own personal trajectory in this hobby and industry, when I was young, I basically believed whatever I was told because my assumption was, well, why would they tell me otherwise, right? And then, of course, I started realizing, well, wait a second, there's this thing called marketing. There's this thing called trying to sell you something. And, if I kind of fast forward over the last sort of 25 years that I've been in this hobby, let's call it semi-professionally, by being a reviewer and a writer, I've had a lot of mentors that really started opening my eyes and ears, so to speak, on you can't just take all this stuff at face value, right? You have to start putting an objective, measurement of some kind behind it, because otherwise, you can make all kinds of claims that A, are simply not true, B, aren't true for the reasons that they claim they're true, and or C, are just completely nonsense, right? I go back to, I think you guys even talked about this in one of your episodes. We certainly have on the Hi-Fi 5 where, you've got, power conditioner manufacturers, fuse manufacturers, and they make claims that are just utterly absurd without anything to back any of that up. Yeah. And then, of course, on the other side of it, you've got Bell Labs, you've got Harman, you've got actual psychoacoustic scientists that have spent decades observing, listening, trialing, getting input from the public at large in large samples and really uncovering what it means to hear and what it means to listen.
Yep.
So anyway, that's kind of like my overarching theme for this is that, you have to have objectivity behind it, because otherwise you're just going to fall for anything that comes your way.
Yeah. Well, speaking of evidence, I want to throw something in real quick, Brent, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
The claim of the headline here is that the independent measurements are triggering shutdowns and sales losses across legacy audio brands. I don't see a lot of evidence in this article that that's happening. Like, I mean, there's the whole thing about Bob Carver Corporation, and they claim, that ASR sort of like took the wind out of their sales. But do we see a lot of evidence that this is causing companies to shut down?
Clearly an AI-generated article. Yeah, I don't see any evidence of that. I mean, come on, let's be real. Who's shutting down? What's shutting down? I don't see anything being shut down. What I do see is a massive spike, I think, in interest. I've certainly seen it on the Hi-Fi 5. I've certainly seen it on my channel with my 5,000 subscribers. Where people are genuinely, I think, starting to get more interested in, hey man, I there's got to be something to it, right? There's got to be something to these measurements. There's got to be something to this whole objective subjective, and I feel like it's gained in popularity to ask more questions.
Yeah.
From my point of view, I mean,
So let me ask you this: if you're looking at some measurement guy, like say Erin, right, who measures a speaker and it measures and the frequency response is just way whacked out, and then you see a positive review in, let's say the Absolute Sound, right, which doesn't have any. They have measurements in their dreams, but they don't have any actual measurements. They think they have measurements, but they don't. Anyway, you have something in a subjective publication where they say, "Oh my gosh, this speaker sounds amazing," and I mean, which gee whiz. I mean, most of the reviews pretty much say that. What do you think the best course of action is if you see contrast like that?
Take a step back, run for the hills. I mean, look, again, I think there are so many layers of the onion you can peel off with this headline, right? I think first and foremost, we're living in an age where everything is marketing. Everything across all industries, across any spectrum, everything is marketing. And everything's amazing. And nothing sucks, right? I mean, haven't you noticed? You turn on the news, everything's peachy keen. You watch your car review channel. Oh, this is the best car ever. You, look at your favorite coffee machine channel. Everybody makes an incredible coffee machine. Everything's fantastic, man. Where did all the shitty products go?
Yeah.
And so, you got to take it with 6 grains of salt and a massive dose of reality check. And I totally, I mean, again, I look at it from, I'm, us, the three of us, the industry at large, obviously, we're part of it. And so we're seeing this on a day in, day out basis. But your typical person reading this, who may be a novice, who may be someone who's genuinely looking to get information, I think he's just getting completely clobbered. And they really need to take a healthy dose of, truth serum, so to speak. Take 6 steps back, get mentors, get people that actually know this stuff, right? Ask lots of questions. The more questions you ask, the quicker the narrative is going to start falling apart, if in fact it is a narrative-driven promotion, right? Come on. I'm thinking back. I'm trying to remember which speaker it was. And I honestly, it's not because I don't want to say the name. I would totally say it. I just can't think of the name right now. Erin was measuring a speaker, and it measured completely lopsided. And I read all the reviews on it. Oh, the presence region is fantastic. Oh, the treble is very sparkly on top. And I'm like, really? Like, how is it even possible that you hear that? Which then brings me back to, if I may take another step,
please,
further, paradoxically, with the aggregate products that we have available as consumer devices, it is today easier than ever to figure out what your own ears are actually capable of hearing through things like, for example, the AirPods 2 hearing test feature, which is laboratory grade. It's fully your ear, throat, ear, and sinus doctor would totally approve of this measurement. I've challenged the industry ever since it became available back in, I think, October of 2023 or 4 maybe. I think it was iOS 18 when that came out. I challenged the industry, guys, post your ear diagram so I can see and at least get some kind of a baseline understanding of what your own ears are hearing and capable of hearing before you start telling me what something sounds like. And I've posted my measurements. I post my measurements each and every time I review a product.
Oh, wow.
And you know what? Nobody has taken me up on that. And when I talk to people about it, they're like, oh, yeah, this is kind of interesting. Yeah, really cool. Oh, wow, I didn't know you could do that. Yeah, but that's besides the point. Besides the point? How could that possibly be besides the point? That's freaking between your noggins, what creates the auditory input for you to begin with. How can that be besides the point?
Well, there's the whole notion that your listening as a skill is much more important than hearing as a physiological function, right?
Sure.
So I think these people have convinced themselves that they have a superpower, right? And you can't measure that superpower on a graph.
Yes.
I think, which, I mean, look, that it sort of reduces to the same argument with objective measurements of gear, of speakers, of things like that. So it's the same thing,
It really is. I completely agree. And ironically, I always find it's the very people that, claim, science this, science that, science the other. But when it comes to this particular piece, oh, no. Science hasn't figured it out. It's like you said, it's the superpower. I completely love how you say that. It's a superpower. Just believe me. Trust me.
There you go.
I know what I'm talking about.
It's the just trust me, bro model of verification that bothers me the most. How do you know that? Well, you just have to trust me because I'm an expert.
Yeah, I know how to listen. I know how to listen to music.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. What qualifies you as a better listener than me? Can you give me 6 things that I can do to become a better listener?
No.
Casually jack around with hi-fi gear for a few years. Then you're automatically an expert. That's right. Just like if you drive a car for several years, then you're a Formula One driver.
That's right. Yes.
Absolutely.
So, again, it's what bugs me the most is this whole notion that, we can't measure it. Look, I love Paul McGowan, right? Listen to his YouTube channel all the time. I get a kick out of it. He's an entertaining figure, lovely man, built an incredible business, right? I mean, hats off, right? But when he starts saying that, well, you just can't measure that yet. Come on, man. Really? We can't measure it, man. We can measure quantum physics and quantum bits and dots. And we have quantum computers. Come on, we can't measure that. I just don't buy it.
Okay. Yeah. I have a deeper question here. This is going to be a good one. And I've been in this business for a long time, both on kind of every side of it. And typically the incidences of people being able to tell, say, amplifiers apart in a blind test are extremely few and far between, right? So, and typically what manufacturers of amplifiers or preamps or whatever, or DACs have done is they find a reviewer who's kind of in their camp. And believe me, they know who's in their camp and who's not. And then they get reviews. They, get that reviewer to review the product, right? And I did this when I worked at Dolby. We knew which reviewers liked us, and we get them to write about us and try to get the other guys not to. And so, how does the high-end audio industry survive when there's not a demonstrable way to prove that let's say your Dan D'Agostino amp for $40,000 sounds any better than a Parasound for $1,500? That's my question for you.
Question. That is a great question. I think there is a component to this which takes, I think, the equation out of the pure sort of measurement track and puts it into the, well, what sort of an experience am I getting? Right? Which doesn't necessarily have to follow that logic of, well, if it doesn't measure any different, then what is the validity of this product to begin with, which is exactly what you postulated in your question there. My follow-up to that would be, well, what constitutes an experience that measurably shows it's absolutely identical, and yet, because of all the external factors associated with it, you're experiencing something very different?
Yeah.
On the Hi-Fi 5 I think it was last week or the week before, we actually, sort of posited the similar question, which was, well, if I were to put the circuits of any of these amplifiers into a shoebox and put them up side by side without any of the visuals that are accompanied on these incredibly well-built boxes that they stuff the stuff in, would you hear any of the sonic differences that you claim you can hear if you can actually look at that component before you? And I would wager to guess you probably couldn't.
Yeah. And what's funny to me is it's we mean old objectivists like who believe in specifications and believe that you probably can't tell two amplifiers apart, or you probably can't tell two competent DACs apart, who are like, I don't see a problem. Sometimes people just like nice things.
Absolutely.
That Goldman amp that we talked about a couple of episodes ago, or last episode or whatever, can you hear the difference between that and a really, really competent amp that also had the same specifications but cost a tenth as much? Probably not. Would I still want that thing because it's just really nice and I like nice things?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that an irrelevant justification? I just like nice things. Just say
Absolutely.
that. Just say I like nice things.
Correct. But then I guess the question goes back to, if that's the case, then again, anyone can make any kind of a claim. And how do you counter that claim? Like if Ted Denny from Synergistic Research puts out a red dot and puts it on your turntable and claims that it offers warmth and soundstage just opens up magically, then, I guess, it's almost like, what's the point? If you really believe that that's the case, then by all means, spend $400 on the quantum dot and be merry and be happy.
We have one rule around here, man. We are unleashed, so we don't really do rules, but we have one rule. We don't give Ted Denny free ideas, right? You just gave him a free idea.
That's right. By the way, this was a trademarked idea. Just trademarked it. So anyway, it's like, again, if you can't offer the objective science behind the subjective experience, then it becomes a religion.
Yeah.
Right?
Which does work, for some people.
Of course. Of course it does. Right? It boggles the mind how much marketing has completely overtaken this industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
this industry.
Any industry, really. Again, any industry, as my earlier example went, right? Everything is amazing. Everything is an incredible product. We've upended millennia of development by no longer having any products anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Danny, this has been fun, man. We appreciate you coming on to talk about measurements. But before you go, tell people where they can find you. Like, what are you doing? We've mentioned the Hi-Fi 5 a few times. We did a whole segment about it a few episodes ago. But give the pitch for anybody that didn't hear that episode. Like, what you up to?
Well, thank you very much. It's super simple. You can find me at Sonic Flare on YouTube or Sonic Flare on Instagram. And as of late, I've joined EMM Labs and Meitner as a strategy and brand advisor. And so if I'm at a trade show or a hi-fi show and you see EMM Labs, chances are you'll probably see me there too.
Cool.
Wait, and Hi-Fi 5.
And Hi-Fi 5, yes, of course. How could I forget?
Everybody go check it out. And again, Danny, thanks for joining us, man. We've enjoyed having you, bud.
Thanks, Danny.
Likewise, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the thoughtful conversation. And I'll catch you guys on the flip side.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a break, get a drink of water, and we'll be right back.
And we're back. This is Audio
Unleashed.
And we are going to talk about Marshall's dinky streaming hub. That doesn't mean a person.
That's not our words, man. That's not like we didn't call it dinky.
Right. It's not a person named Marshall who we're denigrating here. This is a company that we're not denigrating. We're just talking about. I kind of like some of their stuff. I wish I had one of their big stacks, man.
Heck yeah.
But we're going to talk about the part of Marshall that makes money, which is the part that sells. It licenses its name to for the sale of Bluetooth speakers and headphones.
Wow.
Which I've heard is like 10 times the sale as the amplifiers.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. Anyway, Marshall's Dinky Streaming Hub provides or brings wireless multi-room and vinyl support to its rock and roll Bluetooth speakers, right? So this is from, who is this from? What Hi-Fi, English publication.
Yeah.
What it is it's a streaming hub. So it basically will let you stream from Wi-Fi. And it's also got analog inputs. So you can plug a turntable or whatever into it. I don't know if it has a phono pre or not built into it, but maybe we'll figure that out while we're doing this. But
no, it's got
Wi-Fi.
Line in and line out, and it's got a LAN connection. I'm looking at the Verge's coverage. They've got a really nice photo you can blow up. So
okay, good. So you can plug stuff into it, plug analog sources into it. If your turntable has a built-in preamp, which a lot of them do these days, or you tack on your own preamp. But so it's this Wi-Fi hub, but it also transmits via Bluetooth Auracast. And it says it's specifically compatible with the Marshall Acton 3, Stanmore 3, and Woburn 3 Bluetooth speakers. Those are what we at Wirecutter call home Bluetooth speakers because they don't have rechargeable batteries. And you plug them in, and they're kind of big, and they're not, waterproof. They're not designed to be tossed into a car trunk or anything like that. They're designed to sit on a shelf and play music, and they have a lot more bass and generally better sound quality than your average portable Bluetooth speaker.
Right.
And they're more expensive. They're $300 to $500 or $600. This thing is compatible with Spotify Connect, Tidal, AirPlay, and Google Cast. So it's a good streaming box, right? But it's the first one to have that I've seen that has Auracast. Here's the big problem with Auracast. Auracast is supposed to be like Bluetooth, an industry standard where if you see two things that say Bluetooth, then they talk to each other, right?
Right.
Yeah. A Bluetooth transmitter talks to a Bluetooth, headphone. If your phone has Bluetooth, then anything that receives Bluetooth will get Bluetooth, right?
Theoretically,
yeah. Now, in Auracast, it's kind of supposed to be like that. However, the implementation of it has been very dicey. And we found, like I mentioned before, Lauren Dragon at Wirecutter and I have been messing around with this stuff. And, we both sent each other products to try out. And I own 2 or 3 Auracast transmitters at this point. I bought them because I want to try this thing out and see if I can get it to work. The big problem is it's very dicey. So what happens with Auracast? If you Bluetooth your phone to Auracast, then the Auracast product, like an Auracast speaker, will then transmit to other Auracast things. But like with JBL, it's only with JBL speakers, right? So you have your phone. Now, eventually they'll have Auracast. Well, they already have some Auracast phones, but eventually become more common. And right now there's only a few on the market. But eventually you'll be able to just Auracast out to everything. But right now you're Auracasting into, or you're Bluetoothing into an Auracast thing. And then the Auracast thing transmits the Auracast signal out to other Auracast things.
Using Bluetooth. Effectively.
Using Bluetooth, yeah, but it's, Auracast Bluetooth.
Right.
So, I mean, this gets rid of the problem that you have with Bluetooth in that you can only Bluetooth to like two things, right?
Right.
Or, I mean, you can obviously, people like JBL and Sony have a thing where, well, you Bluetooth to our speaker, but then you can do party mode and connect to up to 100 speakers, right?
Right.
But this isn't like that. This is supposed to be, the difference that's supposed to be happening with this is its inter-brand compatibility. And like Lauren and I have found that the Earfun, what do they call it? Air Pro 4, whatever. It's a really, really good noise canceling wireless earbud, true wireless earbud. And they're only like $60. I bought them right off the bat. And just because Simon at Digital Trends gave them a glowing review. I think we even talked about them. And I just bought a pair because I'm like, I could use those. And I still use them all the time. I love them. And those, because you have an app, the app will let you go in there and connect to different things. So I've been able to get those to connect to pretty much everything. And apparently Earfun did a lot of work on their own to get that to happen.
Yeah.
So this is, at present at least, this is not just like your Joe Blow audio company and you just go buy a board from whoever, or you have it made by whoever or whatever, and it just works. Like with Bluetooth, you just assume it's going to work, right?
Yeah.
You buy if we started our own Audio Unleashed speaker company, we would just buy an amp board that has Bluetooth built in, and we assume it works, right?
Yeah.
And it does, almost always. But with this, it's really different. And so Auracast has this, it has great potential for many things. First of all, to give you multi-room without any kind of the proprietary sort of things like that have sort of hobbled Sonos, for example. Ideally, without having some kind of complicated app that you have to go through, which, Bluetooth doesn't require that. Bluetooth, you just make the stuff, and it usually works. Maybe not on the first try, but the second or third, it'll work. And I probably reviewed 1,000 Bluetooth products, and I found 2 or 3 I couldn't get working. But with Auracast, it's really a lot dicier. And so ideally, though, Auracast is already like taking over the hearing aid market. So the idea is that this will replace the inductive loop technology that you have in museums and libraries and stuff like that, where they have inductive loops like in the floor that, your hearing aids can pick up that inductive wave or whatever, translate it into sound. This is a much more robust technology. It's much cheaper to implement. You just buy a Auracast transmitter, which costs $50 on Amazon, and you're blasting out. You're probably getting, depending, 50-foot range, 100-foot range. So if you have a museum or a movie theater or whatever, you could, you can blast out Auracast for almost nothing and have it work with hearing aids. Or have it work with people's, your Earfun Air Pro 4. You can use that instead of a hearing aid for $60.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to see a lot more of these showing up? Because I've noticed in the Verge article about this Marshall hub, they also mentioned that Sennheiser has one coming out called the BTA-1 for $130 that has Auracast as well, which I think that's, Auracast for half the price. But again, like you point out, it's like, well, are they cross compatible? Will the Sennheiser thing work with the Marshall things? Will the Marshall things work with the Sennheiser thing? I don't know.
I don't know.
The Sennheiser thing is coming out February 17th for $129, or you can get it bundled with their new RS-275 TV headphones. But yeah, I mean, Sennheiser, I guess, is probably, aside from JBL, one of the biggest brands we've heard doing this sort of thing, but I don't really know much about it beyond that.
Yeah, and LG has it in TVs, I think, already.
Okay.
It's, since so many TVs have a Bluetooth transmitter now, I think it's pretty obvious to assume that this will be a common feature in a few more years.
Okay.
I have these new Victrola Tempo speakers, which I just mentioned. And they have Auracast transmission in them too.
Ooh.
However, as an Auracast receiver, they're only guaranteed to work with the Auracast turntable that Victrola has. But as an Auracast transmitter, they're not guaranteed to work with anything. But I did get them to work with the Earfun Air Pro 4. So I guess if you want to do Auracast, the Earfun Air Pro 4 for $60 is your only sure bet right now. I don't want to say it's a sure bet, not 100% bet, but at least that's the only thing I've had. And the first Auracast transmitter I bought from Flugoo, Floogoo, which actually had a really complicated interface. It almost looked like DOS, right? It was like very engineering-y.
Wow.
And but it worked, and you could go in there and like see everything it was doing. And that was the Earfun Air Pro 4 again was the only thing I could get to connect to that.
Buddy, the Sennheiser piece, you're going to like this. The Sennheiser transmitter has got HDMI ARC input.
Oh,
that's pretty cool. I mean, for what, 129.95? That's pretty awesome.
Important. That's important because I am at least for the moment, I took over the TV headphone article, I think from Lauren, who was doing it's kind of been kicked around to different people at Wirecutter. Yeah. And I took it over just because Lauren was overwhelmed and I wasn't really doing much. So I took it over for her. But since I think everybody knows I'm retiring pretty soon, we don't know who's going to do it, but that's important because if it's got HDMI ARC input, you can plug this into your TV and use this with your headphones and presumably, I hope, EQ the headphones to make them, to make the dialogue more apparent.
Custom EQ settings, it says the Sennheiser Smart Control Plus app unlocks additional features including transparency mode, left-right balance adjustments, custom EQ settings, hearing profiles, and device type audio modes. There's also an audio suppression mode that reduces hiss and converts audio to mono, which Sennheiser says is particularly useful for classic movies and older TV shows.
Neat. Well, that could be a revolutionary product.
Yeah. I'm just saying like...
Certainly as a TV thing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this Marshall thing is more for traditional audio.
Yeah. Not traditional audio.
What's starting to become traditional audio, not the really old audiophile thing with tube amps and big giant tower speakers, but with what we'll call mainstream home audio.
There you go. Absolutely.
Which Marshall is very much mainstream home audio.
Yeah.
And they only make one-piece speakers. They don't make any stereo speakers.
Yeah. By the way, the Marshall thing, I thought it was cool that if you buy one of the supported speakers, you get this hub for half price. If you buy any two of the Acton 3, Stanmore 3, or Woburn 3, then you get the hub for free. So buy two speakers, you get it for free.
Deal.
Buy one speaker, you get it for half price. So that's pretty cool.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
So, and to put it in perspective, a streaming hub, like the cheapest WIM streaming hub is like $100, right?
Yeah.
So, that's a good deal.
Especially considering
I'm glad they're doing this.
If you're interested in this, then you're probably going to buy two of the speakers, right? If you're, getting it from scratch, right? So, there you go. If you were a late adopter, then you're in luck. But if you've already got the two speakers and you want to join them, you're going to have to spend a pretty penny.
So basically, what I'm saying here is Auracast.
Yeah.
If you're Auracast curious, Earfun Air Pro 4, which you should buy them anyway. No, you should. Everybody should buy them. They're $60. And they sound great. They have good noise canceling. They're comfortable. They even fit my ears, which are big. And it's a really fine product for cheap. I mean, it's just, great product. And the Auracast works. Everything else, don't count on the Auracast working yet.
It's like you and I keep saying, man, the cheap stuff just works. And it's the pricier stuff that you're kind of like, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? But if you get the cheap stuff, it's just like, boom, it just works.
When are we going to see the Dan D'Agostino Master Audio Systems Auracast. Hey, don't laugh, man. He was a very early adopter on Bluetooth in terms of high-end audio. I mean, he put that in his stuff like right away because he's like, you know what? Everybody has a phone. Everybody streams on their phone. Why shouldn't they connect to my products?
That's a good point.
He's right.
It's a really good point.
And, you know, and he also had the name and the reputation to where it wasn't like, I mean, some brands, they could add Bluetooth and people would say, oh, it's because they suck anyway. Whereas if Dan D'Agostino adds it, people can go, oh, well, if Dan's doing it, there must be something to it. It must be decent.
Yeah, there's that cult of personality thing. Yeah.
Well, but it's deserved. I mean, the guy has made a lot of excellent products.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and really beautiful products.
Yeah, really beautiful products. And honestly, I'm sure there were some crappy ones in there somewhere, but I can't think of them right offhand.
Yeah. So. All right, bud. Well, you ready to do some credits and get out of here for most people?
Yeah. What production company did we hire to do this?
We didn't hire it, man. We made it. This is a Butterburger production.
Oh, we are it.
Yeah, we are it. We're stuck holding the bag on that one. And speaking of holding the bag, you, my friend, are doing all of the editing and mixing, mastering, and all that this episode. Sorry about that.
What music should we use?
Do you want to do more Mike music, or do you want to do some of our old stuff?
Let's do a little more Michael Gaughn because I don't have anything ready, but I'm feeling the urge.
Okay, me too.
I found my Earthquaker Space Spiral pedal yesterday.
Oh,
it was
nice.
which is a really whacked out pedal that combines delay and modulation, and basically just it's just one of these things that's so over the top.
Very nice.
That's why I bought it, because I'm kind of like, I should do something with that.
I'm finally starting to get decent sampler set up and getting all of my plugins imported on Linux. So pretty soon I'll be able to actually, create some music on Linux. And I'm itching. I've got some beats kicking around my head that I want to play with. So yeah, there'll be some new Butterburger house band music soon. But for now, we're going to pay tribute to our friend Michael Gaughn one more time.
So, all right.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you. But as always, patrons, stick around. We got one more for you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end. If you liked what you heard and wish there'd been a little bit more of it, we got some good news for you.
Indeed, we do. If you check out patreon.com/Audio Unleashed, all one word, you can get new episodes a little earlier than everybody else.
And sometimes it's like a day or two early. Sometimes it's nearly a week. We never really know until we start editing.
But the big plus is that you get extended cuts of every episode. And usually that's going to mean a whole extra segment that's about maybe a geekier topic or something that's a little more personal to us, or something that's just going to really appeal to the hardcore Audio Unleashed listener.
Yeah, what it boils down to is if you're somebody who would support Audio Unleashed on Patreon, we're going to make sure the bonuses to every episode are really aimed straight at your interests.
Yeah, and so if you want to hear these segments, you can subscribe to our Patreon for $3 a month, which is less than I spend every single day on my cup of coffee when I go to Starbucks to write my boring articles.
Yeah. One more time with that URL, that's patreon.com/Audio Unleashed.
Or Audio
Unleashed. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.